Okay, we're back with week 4, streamside fly time. We're doing a dry fly this time, a little play on the Purple Haze. This one is called the Copper Haze, tied with a copper floss. I've seen these tied different ways all over. Sometimes it's floss the entire body and head. Sometimes you'll run dubbing up front. Today we're going to do a floss version on a size 12 fulling mill ultimate dry. And so yeah, we'll get right in there. Obviously, doing a parachute, there are so many different ways to form the post. So we're going to use a synthetic today, a Parapost material. I'm going to do how I like to tie it in. There's a couple different ways to do it, but I'm going to do the same way that I showed everybody in class, because I think it's the easiest, it's the least bulky. But we're going to start our thread right behind the eye, get a little thread base down, because we don't want our post to slip. But I'm actually going to go back to about the 2 eye lengths behind the eye. I'm going to get a little bit more of a base here. But about 2 eye lengths back is where I want to put the post. I've been told you should do your tail first. I've been told you can do your post first. I don't know if it really matters either way, but I'm going to do the post first. I'm going to take my post material. I'm going to come up from underneath the hook, and I'm going to grab the hook shank, and I'm actually going to tie over, and then I'm going to go from in front to in back. If I can get that here. And all that's really going to do is help tie this in. Got a few loose ones. Now I'm going to do a couple posting wraps around the actual post, just at the base. And then I'm going to hold my post and I'm going to pull on my bobbin, and I'm going to tighten all that up. Now, once I get that fairly tight, I'm going to do some more what I'm going to call X wraps, where I go from behind the post to in front of the post. Then I'm going to go from in front to behind, kind of like we're locking in a pair of lead eyes, and it's just really going to cinch down on everything. And we will, at this point, start wrapping our post up gently. If you pull too hard, it's all going to come unraveling. So I'm just going to gently go up, and then every now and then hold my post, pull my thread tight so it takes all the slack out, gives that post some more rigidity. I'm going to go up a couple millimeters, not super high, and then I'll work my way back down, back onto the shank. And I'm going to wrap a little bit of a base down to the bend of the hook. I like to start my tail by grabbing the materials way up here by the post. Because we're doing a floss body, we need a really smooth underbody. And it helps if you start up here instead of cutting it off at the bend. You'll get a big lump there. It makes it kind of tricky to get a good smooth body. And so I'm going to take my tail material. I've got some moose fibers here. You can go ultra realistic and add 2 tails, 3 tails. You can split them. I'm going to kind of be a little more suggestive than realistic. I think I've got 6 or 7 here. If you tie this with enough of these, it could also become an emerger style pattern, simulating a shuck at the back. But I'm going to set this up here. I'm going to get the length of my tails. I like them a little longer. I think that's plenty long. I'm going to grab these here where I want to cut them at the post. And I'm going to come back, get a nice flush cut, butt them up against the posting material, do a nice loose wrap, capture that, get some pressure, make sure they're tied in good, and then I'm going to pull up on these as I wrap back. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to keep these fibers on top where I want them. I don't want them to slide onto the other side. And I also am going to use less pressure down here by the bend of the hook, because if I pull too hard, they're going to flare out like crazy, and I don't want that to happen. So I'll wrap all the way back up to the post, smoothing out our body. Try to wrangle that post in a little bit. And now I'm going to tie in our body material, which today is going to be a golden brown Uni-Floss, pretty coppery. I'm going to wet this. I've got a sponge here with some water on it, and that's just going to help keep this material from fraying. Obviously, if you've tied with floss before, they want to, they want to fray apart like that, and it's not the easiest to tie in or work with. So if you get it wet, that'll help. You can also put this in a bobbin, so you can spin the bobbin so that you have more control over the material. I've just got a loose piece here, and I'm going to capture that with a loose wrap, pull it close, tie this in on my side of the hook just because it's easier for me to see. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to do a couple passes forward and back just to build a slight little taper. I am using very, very thin thread, so it's not going to do much, but every little bit helps to be a little more lifelike. Now I'm going to move my thread in front of my post, because we're going to do an entire floss body, thorax, head, and we're actually going to tie the floss off on the post. So I need to tie my hackles in now, because that's going to be the last thing I do is hackle, and I'm going to finish these hackles on the post. So I've prepared this, I've stripped some off, stripped some of these fibers off, and I'm just going to capture that, and I'm going to make sure that I have bare stem higher than where I've gone up on my post. And all that's going to do is help me start wrapping this feather without having a bunch of hackle fibers going everywhere. So a couple turns around the post just to hold that hackle in place. That's our Grizzly. I'm now going to tie in a brown. It's kind of your classic hackle colors. If I can pick this one up. And I'm going to do the same exact thing with this guy. Capture it on my side, wrap up to the, don't grab your post material, wrap up to the post, wrap up the post. Now you're going to fight with this. If you leave your post long, it's going to get in the way. It's just something you got to deal with. So go slow. If you capture something, take your time, pull it out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my thread. I'm going to go one time around the post, and I'm going to leave my thread on my side, so that when I wrap to the post, past the post, and then finish on the post, my thread's in the right position. So again, I'm going to go around the post and leave my thread on my side of the hook. And now I can wrap the body. So this is dried out a little bit. I get my fingers wet from my sponge. I'm going to wet this. And then I'm going to start to wrap. And if you've gone too tight on your tails with your thread, you can kind of corral them with some loose body wraps. And then we're just going to work our way up the body. Obviously it's going to, your floss is going to want to unwind on you, which you just got to kind of deal with that a little bit. You can, if it gets too unruly, twist it. So I'm going to twist like you're putting on dubbing pretty much. I'm going to go right up to the post. Too far. And then I'm going to go in front of the post. Pull these things out of the way. And I'm going to pass my thread. I'm going to twist up at the front here to keep my floss from unraveling. And then I'm going to go back towards the post. It's a little finicky. And I'm going to wrap. Now I've moved my material behind my thread. And I'm going to capture it here on the post, just like we tied in our hackles. Give it 3 turns, that should be good. Free up all these materials that I've captured. Now I'm going to take my floss, I'm going to cut the excess away. A good pair of sharp scissors is key here, nice fine tips on them. But at this point, just like with the floss, I'm going to go around the post and leave it in front on my side of the hook. And now I'm going to do my hackles, and I'm going to do 3 turns each. Since we're doing 2, that'll give me roughly 6 turns of hackle, which should be enough to keep this guy afloat. And I've gotten a little tangled up here, but if you just take your time, you can separate all that. So I'm going to pull my hackle towards me. And because I took some fibers off of it, I should be able to start my turns. There's 1. I'm going to do open turns here. 2, leave a little bit of room in between so I can snake the other one through. There's 3. I actually did 4 on that one. That's okay. And now I'm going to hold my hackle kind of down. And I'm going to go over it with my thread, but still on the post. 2 turns. Again, leave my thread on my side. That's our brown hackle. I can now do the same with our grizzly. Kind of bend it down, manipulate this feather so it goes the way we want it to. Get 1 turn. 2 turns, 3 turns. All right, I lied, I did 4. And then again, I'm going to capture that on the post with 2 turns of thread. Should be good. Now, because this post is so tall and it's giving me a fits here, I'm actually going to shorten it to about where I want it, just so that my whip finish tool doesn't get in the way. So this is kind of tricky. Nothing really changes with your, this is your standard whip finish. I'm just going to rotate it so that it goes under the hackles and onto the post. 3 turns. Again, come up from underneath, That way hopefully you haven't captured anything. Pull tight. I am going to hit this with some head cement later, so I'm not worried about doing a multiple turn whip finish other than that first one. Cut my thread. Now I feel comfortable to come in and hack these hackles off. Now, I'm also only going to open my scissor points about that much, and I'm not going to close them. I'm just going to push into this hackle stem so that hopefully I don't cut any fibers that I don't want to cut. Now, I did trap a few. You can see I've got some hanging down. I am just going to come in and clean that up a little bit. But it's a fairly simple, missed a couple others. You will trap some, it happens. You can always come in and hack them out of there. Fairly simple, straightforward dry fly. Augment the color and size. You have pretty much any hatch there is. But yeah, that's the Copper Haze.